Hi guys, welcome back to the Model 3 Man channel, and as I promised you last week, this is not a Tesla episode per se. Yes, I'm a Tesla owner, Model 3 Man, run this channel, but it is a MacBook Pro review. I've been promising that for some time now, and of course, you know that I had been saving for probably a year now to get the MacBook Pros with the new M1 Apple chip and all of the incredible speed and performance that they have. And this is it. This is the little guy we'll be looking at today. So those of you who only want to watch Tesla content, now's the time to tune out. I did promise that we would do the draw for the set of headrests for the Tesla channel. So if you were one of those who put the word headrest in the comments section of that previous video, stay tuned right now as I make the draw and you can see whether you've won or not. So here we are on the YouTube random comment picker. I've entered the word headrest, which is the one I asked you to put into your comments. I've included any replies to my comments. If you included the word there, you'll be in the running as well. So here we go with the start the raffle and pick a random winner. KBM Blizz. So just in the off chance that he or she does not actually get back to me once I contact them, I'm going to draw a second one, and that will simply be a reserve winner. So you can see down here it says pick another winner. I'm going to pick a second person who is the reserve, as it were. Let's go. All right, Lizzie Bolden, but now you're only a winner if our first winner does not make contact. One winner and one reserve. Let's get on with the show. And we're going to review why, in my view, my unbiased view, this is the best laptop ever made. And of course, I need to set the context. I am a video creator. I am a music creator. So I create and edit videos in Final Cut Pro. I create and edit music in Logic Pro. So what is the MacBook Pro, these new ones with the M1 Max chip, what is it like for people who are creators, video creators, music creators? If you're either of those, stay tuned and you'll find this very, very interesting. So I think the first thing to do is to get a few important things out of the way very quickly. Number one, what are the specifications in this MacBook Pro? Well, first of all, it's a 16-inch screen with the so-called Retina XDR display, and if you want the number of pixels, 3456 across and 2234 down. That's one heck of a high-quality, high-resolution screen. Secondly, the Apple processor that's built into this is the M1 Max. Now, you'll recall that there's the M1 Pro, and then above that, the M1 Max. And I've gone for the Max. And this particular configuration, I have a 32-core GPS, which is what controls graphics and animation and movement and video. 32-core GPS. It's got a 10-core processor, 2 are efficiency cores, and 8 are performance cores. We're going to put it to the test, and I'll show you just what impact that makes on our work. The hard drive that comes inside of it is a flash drive, an SSD, and they give a range of choices from 1 terabyte right up to 8. I could not possibly have afforded the 8 terabyte or even the 4. I didn't want the 1 terabyte because I know how quickly things fill up, so I ended up settling for the 2 terabyte SSD drive, and it is lightning fast. I have 64 gig of RAM, 32 cores in the graphics processor, 10 cores in the actual main M1 Max processor, and I have a 16-inch XDR high-resolution display, which is glorious to behold. A few answers to a few questions that I know I'm going to find in the comments section, so instead of putting it down as a comment, here's the answer. Why did I choose 16-inch? Isn't this quite a large laptop? It is. But when you're editing video and you're editing photographs, and I work in Lightroom a lot and I edit photos, I edit video in Final Cut, the bigger the area for the display of the photograph or the video track, the more you're able to appreciate whether you're on the right track with your edits. In any program, the picture or the video is only part of the window. All the rest are menus and surroundings. So 16-inch was a no-brainer. Why 64 gig of RAM? Because 64 gig is the maximum that you can spec the machine with. You could have chosen 16, could have chosen 32. My iMac had 40. Well, you see, unfortunately, in these new configurations, you cannot change the RAM later on. If you don't order now, you don't get it. So I paid a bit more and I bought 64 gig of RAM, which was the max. And will that make a big difference? Well, it will when I'm running multiple programs together, and when those are large programs that require lots of memory and lots of RAM memory for the program to operate in. I already mentioned why I got the 2 terabyte SSD internal drive and not the 8. I'm not Elon or Jeff Bezos, so there you go. 32 cores in the graphics processor. I could have got less. I could have got 16 or 10. Why 32? Well, once again, when you're doing a lot of video work, a lot of graphics work, to have more processing cores in the graphics processor is again something that seems to be obvious. And then to get another topic out of the way quickly, accessories. What are the important accessories you should be getting with a MacBook Pro like this? What are some of the things that you're going to need along the way? Well, number one, that. Now, you probably can't see that very clearly, but I'll put a graphic of it here. This is a USB-C to USB-A converter. That's it. And I have lots of devices like the drive that I'm recording onto now, which has this old-fashioned USB-A connector, and so that would go into there, and this will go directly into the MacBook Pro, because in this MacBook Pro we have 3 Thunderbolt USB-C connectors, and this old drive is not a USB-C adapter. I got myself 2 of these. At any one time, I can connect 2 old legacy devices that have USB-A. And don't think that you can just buy a USB hub to do the same thing. If that hub is not powered, the hub will typically divide the 5 volts that comes from the MacBook Pro, and each of the USB ports will not have enough power to drive a drive. And that's what I discovered and why I had to order these and send back the USB unpowered hub. When I'm working at a desk, I'm not going to be sitting with my fingers on the trackpad trying to perform all kinds of trackpad gymnastics, as I like to call it. So get yourself the so-called magic mouse. It is something I've been used to using for the iMac, so I get the same level of comfort from using this on the MacBook Pro because I know how it works. You may be able to work on a trackpad and you won't need this, but for me, the magic mouse was absolutely essential. And then because I record music, I'm not going to use earbuds to see whether I like the way that I'm editing a song, or whether the bass is good enough, or whether the midtones are coming out. I'm going to use something like these. Over-the-ear headphones like that. And of course, the nice thing about this is the 1/8 of an inch jack at the end fits into the headphone jack on the MacBook Pro, and I'll say more about that jack in a short while. So yeah, a pair of these if you're into music. If you're into video, you can probably get by with earbuds or other headphones that are perhaps not as large and obtrusive as this, but that will work with the MacBook here. But the most important accessory is this. It's the carry case. And I'll put a link to this one here because I think this is the perfect MacBook Pro case. You can see in this little video that I shot earlier why it's so beautiful and why everything fits into it. And I will point out again that the opening is on the side, which is really cool because it's never going to fall out the bottom or fall out the top if you haven't zipped it up. It's going to sit inside even if you've forgotten to zip up the end like that. And this just fits the charger, the adapters, the hard drive, magic mouse, all of those fit comfortably into that bag, which I think is my favorite MacBook accessory, if you can call it that. Now, before we get on to all of the wonderful reasons that make this the best laptop in the world, something very important. There are so many criticisms. If you go on and look for MacBook Pro reviews, you'll find all kinds of issues that people bring up, and really, they're just clickbait. For example, does the notch bother me? Not at all. You don't notice it one little bit. When you're working in Final Cut or Lightroom or Logic Pro, you don't even see the notch. It's when you're not in a program that the notch or the cutout at the top where the camera goes is noticeable. It doesn't bug me, it's just noticeable. But when I'm working in a program, the program comes to the area just below the notch. It doesn't intrude and have the notch break up the program itself. So the notch is not an issue, it's a clickbait thing. Number 2, the weight. Yeah, I pick it up. And it's heavier than a lot of modern laptops. If you're going with PC laptops, there are some that are super light. This is not, but it's solid aluminum. It's molded out of an aluminum body shell. It is absolutely heavier than the average laptop. Listen, I'm 68 today. That light behind me was a family birthday gift. At the age of 68, I'm still perfectly capable of carrying a laptop around and not buckling under the weight of it. So the weight, not an issue. Portability, not an issue. Another thing I often see raised is the incompatibility between the M1 processor this contains and old legacy software that is not M1 adapted or developed. So as far as older software is concerned, Apple have provided Rosetta 2, which is basically an interpretation layer between your old software and the processor, and it does a pretty good job. The older software might not be as blazingly fast as software designed for the M1 processor, but that Rosetta layer makes a big difference and means that you can still use all of the old software. So once again, not an issue. And in Apple's world, Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro, and of course Adobe's Lightroom all have been redesigned from the ground up for the M1 processor and work perfectly. And finally, the fourth objection that I hear is there's no more touch bar. The MacBook doesn't have that touch bar. Well, I want to tell you, let you into a little secret. Most people hated that touch bar. They never enjoyed it. It did illogical things, and sometimes when you tapped it wouldn't work. There was no joy in using a touch bar. They've been replaced with the regular function keys F1 through to F12. They do the things you've come to expect on an iMac. It's a change for the better. Downsides, let me be honest and let me look like a real Apple fanboy. I've not found anything that I don't like on this MacBook Pro. For the reasons that I'm about to list, this is the best laptop I've ever seen and certainly ever owned. So here we go. 14 quick reasons why this is the most amazing laptop. And number 1, speed, speed, and speed. I am used to the time it takes to do certain things on my iMac, which is sitting over there. I've become used to it. I know how long it takes. And when I perform those same tasks in here, it almost blew my mind. Let me give you an example. This episode of the Model 3 Man channel that I aired, I think last week, it was last week's episode, was 20 minutes in length. And when I rendered the final timeline to the finished file, the one that I was going to upload, it took me on my iMac 49 minutes, 22 seconds. Now, I understand what happens in rendering. What I did was I deleted all of the rendered files on the timeline. And for those of you who edit in Final Cut or Premiere, you'll know exactly what I mean. I deleted all of the rendered files. So basically, the computer had to start again, rendering all the effects, rendering all the text and things that I had on the timeline, and then converting that to a single finished file that could be uploaded to YouTube. And this time frame is basically what I'd become used to. How long did it take on the MacBook Pro? 3, 2, 1, go. All right, my timer's working, and this is the progress indicator that shows how long the render is going to take. Fairly stunning. We're already on 16%. Remember that this is a 20-minute project. 20-minute project. I deleted all of the renders, so it's really having to start again, rendering each area where there are multiple overlays, where it has to merge the audio, and we're already on 25%, a quarter of the way there with 42 seconds. We're getting up to 50%, and I'll give you the halfway mark, the time on the halfway mark. 45, 46, we're getting there. 48, 49, and 50. 1 minute 24 seconds. 1 minute 24 is the halfway mark. Coming up to 2/3 of the way at 2 minutes, and once it hits 100, I'll stop the stopwatch as well, and we can mark that time down. Okay, 2 minutes 42. We're up at 90, and I'm going to get ready just to stop it the minute it's finished. Done. 2 minutes 54. 2 minutes 54 seconds. Okay, that's absolutely amazing. That is stunning. Mind blown. In other words, I hardly had time to walk up to the kitchen, grab a cup of coffee, come back down again, and the rendering was done, and the finished file was available to upload to YouTube. Stunning. And you can see here in this little clip here that when I scrub from left to right, as fast as I want, it never hangs up. It shows me exactly the area that I'm scrubbing the cursor over. The old machine would kind of freeze, and then I'd have to wait a few seconds, and then it would show me the new portion that I'd reached. Performance is out of this world. And if I've got many programs open, I'll have Logic Pro open, I might have Lightroom because I'm working on some pictures, I've got Final Cut, I'm busy rendering something. I can flip back and forth between all of these open programs and fully get into what I want to do with them with no hesitation, no slowdown, no bottleneck. It's like it's the only program running on the MacBook. Number 2, this is absolutely great. There's no noisy fan that cuts in the middle of recording or in the middle of doing something that requires quiet. The fan never comes on. And I mean, even when I rendered that 20-minute video and it took me 2 minutes and 49 seconds, even when I did that, the fan never came on. It never overheated. It stayed cool. So those of you who hated the noisy fan that always plagues us when we use laptops, no more fan, no more noise. I will tell you that between the 16-inch and the 14-inch, sometimes users on a 14-inch can hear the fan come in quietly, but on the 16, we never hear it. And number 3, and this is related, the base of the laptop, this part underneath there, never gets hot. And when you're used to putting your laptop on your lap, if you're sitting sitting on the couch or you're lying in bed, you put it on your lap, the thing used to get super hot with my old PC laptop, but with this, you don't even feel it. Number 4, the screen. Well, there's no point in me putting a camera on the screen and showing you. It does not do justice to it. The screen is bright, it's vivid, it has unbelievable luminance. Pictures and colors are vibrant. The resolution is high, as you heard from my figures earlier on. I have no complaints on the screen, whatever. And people who talk about bright areas blooming, you'd have to have white text on a black background and look closely to have any kind of effect of blooming that you notice. It just is not an issue. Number 5, battery life. Well, this is the best battery life any MacBook Pro has ever had. You can literally go through the whole day. If you're just watching videos and you're browsing on the web, you can go the entire day and you'll still have power at the end of it. Now, please understand, anytime you're doing serious work, processing music, processing video, you're not going to get 15, 16, 17 hours out of that. You might get 5. When I sit at a desk and I'm doing that kind of work, I just leave the plug connected and I use power. And when I'm in the bedroom, in the living room, going out for a drive, I'll take this and I won't even bother to bring the power cables with me because the battery is just that good. A really good battery, a really big improvement on all previous MacBook Pros. Number 6, the build, the ergonomics. I said to you that it was a little heavier. And what they've done here, and let's see if I can just close this and show you. There, you can see that it's not curved like that. It's straight, and whichever side you look, you can see that it's kind of very regular, very uniform, and maybe a little thicker overall than the front end of the old MacBook. But this is a beautifully built laptop. It feels solid. The lid moves up and down absolutely beautifully, very smoothly. So if you want to look at the best built MacBook Pro or even laptop ever, take yourself into an Apple store, pick it up, feel it, hold it, and I think you'll be just as pleasantly surprised as I have been since I got it. And then the ergonomics, that means the usability. Well, the keyboard is fantastic. The positioning of the keyboard, the trackpad size, where you can rest your wrists, the palms of your hand, all of them have been perfectly designed, at least for a guy of my size with my size hands. I can sit with it, I can type on it, it feels comfortable at all times. I'm not going to get carpal tunnel of the fingers at all. It's just a wonderful thing to use. So great build, great ergonomics. Number 8, all of the ports, they've come back. So we have 3 USB-C Thunderbolt 4 connectors or ports. We have an SD card slot for your regular camera card in the right-hand side. We have an HDMI connector. You could take this straight to the television set and you could be beaming a video or a movie or something onto your TV set or an external monitor. Now I know it's not the HDMI 2, not the second version, the faster 4K. It's the version that allows for HD video to be exported. And while some have complained, how often do you connect the HDMI to an external device? And if you do, it still looks perfectly fine on an external monitor. So the HDMI port is there. On the left-hand side, we also have a very important thing, and it is this. Here's the adapter, and I'll talk about this in a little while, 140 watt adapter. The cable is separate, which is great. USB-C, that goes into the adapter over there. But this end is a MagSafe connector that fits onto the side magnetically like that, and if it breaks away, it just comes loose. So if you've plugged in your power and somebody trips over the cable, it does not rip the laptop down onto the floor. The MagSafe connector just separates. Number 9, just a few words about the magnificent keyboard over here. First of all, it's all black. And the background, the well under each key, is also black for the first time, and it looks very, very professional. But the best thing about it is the layout. See, there's my iMac keyboard. Every one of these keys, and the layout, and the distance, and the spacing, is exactly identical to the keys on that. So you can see the black background behind the keys. You can see the key layout. It's just exactly the same as that, which means no having to adapt to the keyboard positions and the proximity of each key to the other. It's just the same as whatever they call this loose keyboard for the iMac. The keys are very responsive, easy to tap on, no complaints on the keyboard whatsoever. Number 10, the trackpad. Listen, I've never been a fan of the trackpad, in all honesty. I'd so much rather take the Magic Mouse and use it. I'm a mouse person, a mouse user. But the trackpad, when you're lying in bed and you've waited for Janine to go to sleep and then you've grabbed the laptop and you've put it in your lap, I can use the trackpad. I can get comfortable with it. It's not a problem. It's just not the same ease of use as a regular mouse, but again, that's a personal thing, and you may have a different view. You may have become used to a trackpad and do everything on it. Good for you. You'll love it. It's big, it's very sensitive, and at a pinch, I can use it and I have. Number 11, the audio, the sound. There are two speakers. You can see the grid on either side of the keys, very, very fine, tiny little holes. That produces the most amazingly that was my sister-in-law calling to wish me happy birthday, but I got to finish this video first and then I'll call her back. What they've done is to beef up the bass. They've got transducers that provide very, very good bass for a laptop, obviously, but it's amazing. And when you listen to it, it is so well-rounded, full representation of all of the frequencies in music that you don't feel a compulsive need to plug in an external jack and put it into a Bluetooth system. You can get by listening to the sound on the laptop and not be thinking all the time, this is terrible, crappy sound. Why don't I just go and connect to my Bluetooth home system? It is very, very improved. How good? Well, to the point that I'm a musician and I'm a music person. I enjoy listening to the sound of music coming out of the speakers here, and that says a lot. So to me, best audio from a laptop that I've ever heard. It's better than the 14-inch, and the transducers are a bit larger. I'm very happy with the audio. Number 12, and this is amazing. There is a microphone built in on the left-hand side. And you know that laptop microphones are normally not very good and you don't really get much quality out of them. I took one of the songs that I was recording, one of the James Taylor covers that I've been doing, and I thought, let me just use my regular high-quality microphone and record a verse, and then take the microphone built into the laptop and just hold it close and sing the next verse on here. The MacBook's microphone built into the body. Here's the result. Yes, there was a difference. But after I'd used EQ, compression, plugins, played around with the sound, fitted it into the rest of the track with the instruments and the keyboards and the guitars, it was really difficult to tell which was which. Because you're not listening to a voice on its own, you're listening to the voice in the context of the music. To be able to say that at a pinch I could record on the microphone of the MacBook and get away with producing a demo version of a song without the need for bringing along microphones and cables and connectors. I've never had that in any laptop before, and I've never known any friends and colleagues who do their own recording. I've never known any of them to be able to use a microphone in their laptop, in their portable, or in the MacBook. Obviously, I'm not going to record my songs using this microphone when I have a decent mic over there, but I am, when I'm without any equipment, still able to create a demo song, do some recording within the MacBook itself with no external connections to anything else. That's astounding. And number 13, if I'm listening to the music I've been creating and I want to use these, here's the problem with the average laptop. The headphone jack does not put out enough power so that the bass and the lower end sounds have the same strength and force when you're listening on a set of headphones like this. Your sound there is not the same as if you're listening through a preamp or an audio interface or a mixing desk. But in this MacBook, they've provided a preamp that comes and sits before the headphone jack, which gives sufficient power to that output that when I plug these in here and I listen to the song that I've been creating on those, it doesn't sound any different compared to what these headphones would sound like on my audio interface. I have Focusrite, Scarlett, two audio interfaces. When I connect up the headphones there, it's a really good sound. And now it's a really good sound on the MacBook Pro. Do I sound like an Apple fanboy? I've been pretty critical of Apple for a lot of things, but not this MacBook. And finally, on the 16-inch and only the 16-inch MacBook, there is a 140 watt charger. If this MacBook is completely out of power, is run right down, within half an hour, This will put the power back up to 50%, 51% by my test, but halfway in half an hour. That's amazing. The 14-inch MacBook Pro, the charger is 96 watts. So why the difference? Well, there is a bigger battery in this unit, but the fact that it can do in half an hour half of your battery's capacity is again astounding. So folks, I'm going to stop there. Yes, I've been sounding way too much like an Apple fanboy. I know I'm a Tesla fanboy, but this is a great laptop. This is, in my opinion, the best that's ever been made. And I welcome any questions that you might have. Put them down in the comments section. It's been wonderful to just to do an episode that has nothing to do with Tesla, but computers were always my first love, and I've never had a laptop or a portable, certainly not a MacBook Pro, that performs like this little guy here. So thanks for watching, those of you who stuck right the way through. I appreciate the support you give to the channel, and for the next episode we'll be back to talk about all things Tesla. So thanks for this episode, thanks for your support, I'll see you next time.